Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Roller Coaster History Podcast. You are listening to Airtime Traveler. My name is Nathan Grace, and as always, I'm joined by my wife and lovely co-host.
I'm Haley Grace.
And thank you for tuning in to this episode. Today, we're doing a trip report. We haven't done one of these since, very beginning of the podcast. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's in between episode 4 and 5, so... Yeah, it's been a while since we had a trip report, and we have so many we need to do. But
we need to catch up.
That's kind of the goal here.
That's okay. I get to hate on this park a little bit, and then...
Hate on this park?
I wasn't a fan of this one.
I mean, you enjoyed it. I don't say you hated it.
Maybe it was
You just liked King's Dominion more.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're talking about King's Island today, which, if you haven't listened to... I can't remember which episode we talked about it, but we previously recorded a trip report for King's Island, and then our recording equipment malfunctioned, and the audio got corrupted, and we lost it all. So we've kind of been dragging our feet on recording this because...
we have to do it all over again.
Do it all over again.
Yay.
So we're finally getting around to it, mostly because we've got a lot of other trip reports we got to get to, and we wanted to make sure we got this one done first. So... But, yeah, if you haven't listened to the podcast before, usually here at Airtime Traveler, we're talking about, we take one roller coaster and we dive into the individual history of that coaster. And so we've done 13 episodes now of Airtime Traveler. Our most recent episode was about Gemini at Cedar Point. And we've done lots of other stuff from Silver Dollar City to Hershey Park to Knott's Berry Farm, you name it. And so... be sure to go and check those out, and we're doing those every other Monday. And also, just some news, in case you haven't seen this on social media, the Coaster Conversations podcast and the Airtime Traveler podcast are merging. So whenever we do episodes of Coaster Conversations, you'll find them right here instead of doing two separate podcasts. I just decided, why don't we just put them all in one spot? And so... you'll see the difference. Like if you're on Spotify, there's a logo next to each episode. The red ones are the typical episodes of Airtime Traveler, and if it has the blue logo, then that's a bonus episode of Coaster Conversations. And if it has the red logo with a white background, then it's a trip report like we're doing today. So that's kind of how that's kind of how you'll be able to tell the difference between the episodes.
I didn't even know that. Shows how much I'm paying attention, but...
What? Do you not follow Airtime Traveler on social media?
I'm also watching our toddler, and it's busy season for my hot cocoa bombs.
Sorry.
So...
Well, and I think also you spend most of your social media, you're on Facebook, probably.
Yeah.
And TikTok. Which...
No, I've been more on, just Netflix, because honestly, my hands are so busy.
Media, but...
So I have a chocolate business just here at home where I do things locally, but it's starting to get to my busy season where I sell a lot of my hot cocoa bombs. So that's all of my time anymore. Anyway, I posted about it on, I know you're not on Twitter, but I posted about it on Instagram. So anyway, yeah. So anything podcast related, you'll all find it in one spot now, which was kind of the goal, is to make it simpler. No, that's
easier to find our content.
No, I think that's really good.
And plus, I was planning on doing Coaster Conversations on the off weeks of Airtime Traveler, but that was a lot more time than I anticipated, I think. And I haven't had as many topics to talk about as I thought. So.
Well, there's been a lot to talk about lately.
There has been. I mean, heck, we could be doing an episode of Coaster Conversations right now, but we don't have time. So just do a quick blitz of some of the news that's happened recently.
There's been so much.
Oh, where to start? I should, honestly,
let's just start with Kennywood, because that's
insane. So let's start with the sad news.
I have so many feelings put into this.
So if you're not aware, when did this happen? I think it happened,
I thought it was the first, I think it was Friday or Saturday, because it was one of the first days. I think so. So
it was either, anyway.
The spooky fall thing that they did.
What day would that have been? It would have been either the 23rd or 24th of September, I can't remember. But there was basically a shooting happened at Kennywood.
Yeah.
It was that night during their Phantom Fall Fest. I can't remember what they called their Halloween event, but Someone had a handgun. Apparently, it was a teenager, and they were masked. And there was like, I guess there was some kind of squabble between a bunch of different teenagers, and then just one of them happened to have a handgun. And fortunately, so 3 people were shot, but fortunately, they were non-life threatening. It was like 2 people got shot in the leg, and one had like a graze mark where like they didn't even like go in an ambulance. They just like drove to the hospital afterwards. So
there's a couple trampling incidents.
yeah, some people got trampled from people rushing out of the area. So there are a few injuries. No one was killed, fortunately, but it's been, and this is something we've talked about. We talked about it with Knott's Berry Farm several months ago, where there wasn't a shooting, but there was like this huge fight that broke out among all these teenagers, and they had to introduce that chaperone policy. Well, I don't know if I told you.
I was the one that sent it to you.
Well, the
picture of the new, like, updated rules.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah. But what I was going to say is, I don't think I told you this, but Carowinds actually had an incident a couple weeks ago of, like, the same thing. Like, a bunch of teenagers, they had to evacuate the park early. And so, Carowinds actually has a chaperone policy they just implemented last week.
Gosh,
and then Kennywood today announced that they would be implementing a chaperone policy at least for the rest of their Halloween event and maybe moving forward. So
I think it's wise.
It's just crazy. And like I mentioned in my social media post today that like if I was a teenager now, I would be super angry about it that like I couldn't go to amusement parks by myself. Because I used to do that. Like my first time riding Outlaw Run was when I was 16, and I went to Silver Dollar City with a bunch of friends. That's like what got me into roller coasters. So, but I think the world's a different place than it was
really
10 years ago.
I just feel like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, have so many emotions about this. Like, it's insane.
It's tricky. Kennywood, I don't understand how someone was able to get a gun through security.
So, I mean, the only thing that, and they've talked about a couple of things, is number one, failed security system. Like, they've talked about, like, well, maybe it just slipped through security somehow. The other thing that they talked about is technically there's a lot of fences along Kennywood that he could have just jumped a fence. Right. And,
which, since it was at night, I mean, that's, it's easier to try to do that.
Yeah.
And I noticed that in their announcement today that they said they were increasing security around the perimeter of the park because I'm guessing that's probably what they're guessing happened. Because they have metal detectors and security measures
and now
at the
the
front of
only
the park.
bags that are allowed into the park are certain.
Yeah, it's either
it
has to be a small bag or it has to be a diaper bag or a medical bag.
Yep.
So. Yep. It's crazy. All these things happening. Knott's Berry Farm posted today that basically that they were doubling down on their chaperone policy because they have their Not Scary Farm event going on right now, which is the biggest Halloween event in the amusement industry, and. They were just, basically doubling down like, nah, you still got to have your chaperone. And it sucks, because, clearly it's not the majority of teenagers that are causing these problems. But, 1 or 2 bad apples ruin a batch,
Yeah, absolutely. I truly feel like, and that goes for adults too. Like,
yes.
Anywhere you go, you have one problem and it's going to ruin experiences for a ton of people. So I think, wise up, amusement industry. Like that's, I think the chaperone policy should be on all of the parks until further notice. I think it just sets an example for. Like, okay, don't mess around here. This isn't the place to do that.
Yeah, and it's crazy because like Six Flags, we talked about this, or I think I talked about this in our second episode of Coaster Conversations. But the Six Flags CEO basically said they were increasing their prices because they didn't want Six Flags to be a babysitting service, and so like at the time that seemed like kind of a harsh way of looking at it, but. In hindsight, I mean, a lot of these parks kind of get used that way, especially in like highly populated areas.
Yeah.
Knott's Berry Farm and the Disney parks, especially. Like if you had
Disney parks not so much anymore because they're kind of phasing away the season passes. But I mean, my dad told me like when he was a teenager growing up in the LA area that he'd go to Knott's Berry Farm all the time as a teenager. And so,
I mean,
like if you have a season pass, that's super easy to just drop your kid off at Knott's Berry Farm and they'll hang out there the rest of the night.
Kennywood is very much the same way.
Like, right.
You know, that was something that I went on dates a lot on, you know, as a teenager, is let's go to Kennywood for the day, or, you know, our group of friends from high school would go to Kennywood for the day. Like, that was just the thing that you did. And, like, but at the same time, like you said, the world's changing.
That's the thing, is like, I don't know what it is about, and I don't know if it's just because it's all happened within like 4 or 5 months of each other, but like, why are all these incidents involving teenagers? And why are teenagers now different than teenagers 10 years ago? I don't know.
I think it's social media, honestly. Yeah. I mean, we didn't have this, you know, great amount of social media. We didn't have TikTok. We didn't...
Sound like old people, right?
I'm serious. But if you think about it, like, you know, we're 26, like... You know, we're still pretty young, but like, you know, 10 years ago, think about it. We had Facebook.
Back in my day.
We had like Facebook. That was it. You know what I mean? Like, as 16-year-olds, that was the big thing. Like, Facebook.
I didn't get Instagram until I was 20.
I'm serious. Like, it's just like, that's, you know, and now there's TikTok, there's Instagram, there's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's... You know, I mean, do you remember MySpace?
Oh, I never had a MySpace.
I had a MySpace.
Did you really?
Yes, I totally did.
MySpace was kind of already dead by the time I got into social media.
That's so funny.
That is funny.
Yeah, I had a MySpace. Only for a little bit, though, I remember. But Twitter was just starting to become a thing.
I didn't get into Twitter until I was in my 20s because...
Still not into Twitter.
I've come to this is totally off topic, but I've come to the realization that I use Instagram to keep in touch with, and Facebook, to be fair. Instagram and Facebook I use to keep in touch with people. Yeah. Twitter I use for news. Yeah, and I just follow people, like, I use, like, Airtime Traveler. I'm always, I follow all the parks and other people in the industry to keep up on news. And so I use Twitter totally different than how I use Instagram and Facebook. So.
Yeah, that's funny. I'm just like, whatever.
So, one more bit of bad news I'll just touch on really quick, and then we'll talk about some good news. So El Toro is a really popular roller coaster at Six Flags Great Adventure.
I've heard of it, yeah.
Considered top 5 in the country. And last year, one of the cars derailed towards the end of the ride, and the coaster was shut down like the entire rest of 2021. They were repairing it. So in 2022 they opened it back up, no issues. And then like it was probably about a month ago at this point, there was another issue where I guess there was like some type of pothole in the track. It's a wooden coaster. And nobody was seriously injured, but a couple people had to go to the hospital with whiplash. Like, they just, like, got, I don't know. It was just, like, a really rough spot. So they shut down the ride. And the Department of, I don't know which department in New Jersey handles it. Sometimes it's the Department of Agriculture. It's weird. But anyway, whatever department is over amusement rides in the state of New Jersey inspected the ride. And, like, a few days ago, basically said that it's like unfit to open without like a major refurbishment.
Crazy.
It's wild. And so like they just refurbished this thing over the off season. So I don't know what. So this is my thing with Six Flags, is like they're constantly, you know, they keep increasing their prices, and like we're still having issues like this where they're like cutting corners on things. And like, this is arguably Six Flags' best coaster in the country.
Yeah.
Most people would probably say it's the best Six Flags coaster. I mean, you can make an argument for a couple others at Magic Mountain, but, you know, it's the cream of the crop, especially on the East Coast. So, you know, it's disappointing to see, you know, them continuing to raise prices, but the quality of the parks isn't getting any better with the increase in prices. And maybe that'll take time. Maybe their goal is to, like I said, not be a babysitting service for a few years, and then they can, you know...
add stuff.
I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
So, I will give Six Flags their due credit though. I saw an article last week. Well, actually, my dad shared it with me that Six Flags. Let me find it. Actually, I want to get this right because it's important. Let me find it because they did something that was really cool that I was impressed with. So here's the article. It says all Six Flags parks in the U.S. are now certified autism centers. The certification means that staff have completed autism training and that sensory guides for attractions and other support are available for autistic visitors. So
That's cool.
I don't think we've talked about this before, but my little brother has autism, and so like to see that was like I was really impressed.
Technically, your sister, like your sister.
That is true. So my sister's isn't as severe as my brother's, but both my sister and my brother have autism, and so like that's really important in our family for them to for us to be able to navigate that whenever we go on trips to parks and different things. And so I was really impressed to see, Six Flags to make that effort. So although I'm frustrated with Six Flags and the direction they're going right now, I do have to give them their due credit for that because I was impressed with that. So
yeah, I mean, it is becoming so much more aware of those, sensory issues and, things that people have going on right now. And I wouldn't say that it's becoming more prevalent. I think it's always been prevalent, but I think, again, like, people are just becoming more aware of, their children or, themselves with sensory issues. Like, so, well done.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
I am impressed. That is cool.
So, last but not least, let's talk about some coaster-specific news. Cedar Point announced Top Thrill Dragster is closing. And the phrasing was, as we know it, is closing. So that seems to imply that they're not just tearing it down, but they're going to do something with it. It's pretty crazy, though. I'm disappointed I never got to ride it in its original form. The original 400-foot Stratocoaster. Never got to try it. I know Cedar Point has the capability to do something pretty amazing with it, though. So some people are saying, well, maybe they're going to do some type of 500-foot vertical spike on the backside of it so that they can break the 500-foot record. And so, I don't know. There's rumors all over the place of like kind of crazy stuff.
I honestly wouldn't get on it. Like, that freaks... I mean, even looking at it, I was like, I'm good.
It's over so fast, though.
Yeah, but I don't know.
You'd be fine. It's over so fast. It's not like... Because I know you don't like heights, but it's not like that Ferris wheel we went on where you're like sitting up there in the air for several minutes at a time.
I enjoy coasters, but I don't like sitting there that high. I'm like, nope. Yeah. No thanks. I think that's like one of my biggest fears, always getting on a coaster that was getting stuck at the very top of a coaster. Like, could you imagine being like on Intimidator, like 305 and get like stuck at the very, very top?
It's happened.
No, thank you.
I would be okay if I was on a sit-down coaster that got stuck at that high. But if it was like an inverted coaster where I was hanging and there's like nothing underneath me and I got stuck, that would freak me out a little bit. That's what I get more scared on the Windseeker rides than I do on the roller coasters, just because like it's like 300 feet between your feet and like nothing. Like there's just 300 feet all the way down. So
I don't.
But like if I'm sitting there on the top of a lift hill, but I'm just sitting in it,
I would seriously
that's
panic.
funny. So
nope.
Well.
Not only, I think not only like the fear of like being up that high and just sitting there doing nothing, but like getting dehydrated, getting burnt, like from the sun.
That was what I would worry about more. Is if it's hot, I'd just be like, oh, get me off.
Yeah. Well, and because we talked to somebody in line once, she's like, yeah, I got stuck on this once for 45 minutes, and it was like the one launch coaster at. Not launch coaster. It wasn't Maverick. It was
I don't know.
Steel Engines.
What the one at the RMC one at the back of the park?
No. It was like the one that broke records at the front. Not.
They all broke records.
Well, the one
the one that goes right over the entrance?
No, that's Gatekeeper. I know that one.
Okay. Millennium Force.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
She's like, yeah, I got stuck on that ride for like 45 minutes. I'm like, no. No.
Well, we saw that one having some issues the third day we were there, right? Like, we got there and it was like people were lined up outside of it and it wasn't open. And we like walked by and there was a train stuck on the left hill.
Freak out.
I've never been stuck on a roller coaster for longer than a few minutes.
Knock on this wood right now.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, seriously. Oh my gosh. Because it would just be my luck that we would get stuck.
Well, the next park we're going to is Disney, and there's nothing super tall at Disney. So
that's true. And Disney's pretty good about like having like the feeling of like
people get excited if you have to be evacuated on Disney.
That's true because you don't.
What do they call them?
Backstage.
They have there's a term for when you have to get evacuated on a Disney ride. I can't think of what it is now, but
that's funny.
Yeah. Anyway,
I mean, your dad's been evacuated on a couple rides.
Yeah.
I've never been.
I can't remember if I have or not. I feel like I have one time, but I can't remember now.
Oh.
So, anyway, last little bit I'll touch on. There have been some new coasters announced since the last time we did some news. So, Busch Gardens Williamsburg announced Dark Coaster, which is going to be an indoor straddle coaster themed to snowmobiles. There used to be a dark ride that was in that building that closed down a long time ago. So it's like an old castle building, and it was called the Curse of Dark Castle. And so they're basically taking the story of that dark ride and implementing it as like the coaster's like a sequel to the story, which is cool. I like the idea of like continuing to tell the same story with a new ride.
Cool idea.
So it'll be it's gonna go around the track twice. So they have it's going to come out of the station and launch, and then it'll go through the entire circuit twice, and then come back into the station. It's got like a switch track so that it can have two trains on it. So like while one train is going around twice, the other one will be loading, and then when this one comes to the station, that one will go out and go around twice while this one's loading. So it's an interesting concept. I hope the second ride is somehow different than the first ride. Whether it's faster or different special effects.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Like Rock and Roller Coaster, like kind of like that feel, like where it has like the different, like it's a dark ride, but then it has like lights, so it'd be cool. Yeah. Like this. Like
what if the first time through is like in pitch black?
Yeah.
And then the second time through, like boom, there's like all these special effects, or like you're escaping a storm. It's called the tagline is "Escape the Storm," so there's gonna be some type of. I don't know. Busch Gardens Williamsburg is really good with theming their rides, so I'm excited to see what they can do.
That'd be cool to go visit.
When
it opens.
I really want to go to Busch Gardens, but there's so many other parks.
We've already talked about what we're doing.
I know, that might have to be 2024 to do Busch Gardens, but
no, it is going to be 2020.
Well, 2025 is the 50th anniversary of King's Dominion and Busch Gardens Williamsburg, and they're only like 45 minutes away from each other. So I'm like, ooh, that would be cool.
That would be fun.
So that might be our 2025 trip. Let's see.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine Parker will be like old enough to like ride a lot of those coasters?
Yeah.
What?
That's pretty crazy.
That's weird to think about.
He's gonna get to ride his first coaster by the end of the year.
Well, I mean, he's like 35 inches and a half.
Wait, he needs to be 35 to go on the one at Disney.
What's 36? I thought there was a 36.
So 35 is Barnstormer.
Okay.
So he'll get to ride that one. 38 is Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and Slinky Dog Dash. So he probably won't be able to get to that. So
unless he has a major growth spurt, but I doubt it. I think he'll only be able to do Barnstormer. But
and then just yesterday there were a couple. Well, technically one coaster and one debated whether it's a coaster or not.
One? Yeah.
So SeaWorld San Antonio announced Catapult Falls, which is a launched log flume. They're calling it a launched flume coaster. So people are like, it's not really it's just a log flume. Like, so enthusiasts are pretty much saying that's not a roller coaster. It's just a launched log flume. Either way, it looks really cool.
It does
and
look
looks
cool.
like a lot of fun.
It looks terrifying, but
it looks terrifying.
It does.
So
I've always had like kind of a slight fear of water slides. Like
really?
launched, like I don't know. When I was little, I went down one of the speed slides, like speed water slides, but there wasn't any like edging on the side of it. Like it was really terrifying because I was super light and I felt like I like kicked up on the slide and like there isn't any water like next to you. It's cement and then it slides down into the pool and
well,
so,
I mean,
like,
this one's just like a splash mountain, though.
I guess that's true.
So,
but still, like the whole idea of like a water slide kind of thing freaks me out. But especially like a launch one. But maybe it's just me.
Yeah. So then the other one is SeaWorld San Diego announced, what do they call it? Arctic Rescue, which is another straddle coaster themed to snowmobiles. This one completely outdoor. It's going to be faster than Dark Coaster too, so I think this one will be I think they said a triple launch, so I think it's going to start at like 30, and then they said it would go up to 35, and then it would go up to 40 so like you're speeding up throughout the
that's
ride.
Cool.
So that was kind of cool.
The straddle coasters are such a fun concept. I'm really looking forward to like riding Tron for the first time. And
I'm so bummed it's not going to be open when we go, but
know,
that's okay.
Like right before like it opens is when we go, and I'm like, it's such a bummer.
So. It is interesting because SeaWorld and Busch Gardens, that's part of the same chain. So I'm curious if they said, like, hey, we'll just buy 2 straddle coasters. We'll put one over here on the East Coast and put the other one over on the West Coast.
I guess that makes sense.
So, SeaWorld San Antonio actually also has one, but they've had it there for a lot longer. So anyway, the SeaWorld chain must like their straddle coasters.
They seem like they're pretty fun. And
yeah, they're good.
Like,
and they're good family rides.
Yeah.
So they're good for all ages. So I think that's all the new coasters that have been announced since last time we talked. I know we've already talked about Big Bear Mountain at Dollywood, and I mean Adventure. And I know Coaster Conversations. I talked about Zambezi Zinger at Worlds of Fun. We talked about that one. So yeah, I think that's all the new stuff that's coming. I think we've talked about everything now. So I think we're caught up on news now. High five.
All right, well then let's jump into
Kings Island. So
some stuff to talk about, but
yeah,
as much as I can remember.
Yeah,
the trip was such a blur.
Yeah, we may or may not. We'll see. Depending on what we remember, we may not go into as much detail with Kings Island as we did with King's Dominion, just because it was several months ago. But we wanted to make sure we at least gave you some of our general thoughts and maybe some advice for going to Kings Island. And I think the way we did it last time is we did atmosphere and theming, food, rides, non-coaster rides, and then we talked about the coasters and closed it out. So I think we'll just do it that way.
We can try again.
You're fine.
I'm going to try.
I'm going to open my drink. This is my new... Oh, I can get this. Oh, that was super easy. This is my new...
This one,
tradition.
I'm so excited for you to try this.
This is my new tradition to have a drink on
peanut butter and
jelly soda that Haley got me while she was on her trip this past weekend.
Yeah.
I am curious. Okay.
Oh, I'm so nervous.
Oh, that is weird. I don't know if I like that or not. Yeah, that's
Does it taste like a peanut butter jelly sandwich?
It's hard to tell at first, but it definitely has the aftertaste. Like right now, I feel like I've taken a bite and swallowed from a peanut butter jelly sandwich.
I don't even know if I can have this. I don't want to chance it, but it smells like it. Ew, that's so weird. It smells like peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
It does. It's like when you would bring one to school in a little plastic bag, and when you open it, that's what it smells like.
That's so weird, but it's a soda.
Yeah.
It's like weird. This bright pink color.
Yeah, it's very... Butter. It's not see-through at all, which is concerning. It's very...
You just put peanut butter in it.
Why is it so thick? No.
Oh, man.
All right. So let's talk theming and atmosphere. So I think the number one thing that you and I had discussed the last time we recorded this was that while this is my opinion, I enjoyed the coasters at Kings Island more than King's Dominion, which we're going to compare those a lot, mostly just because we did them back to back. And there are comparisons to be made because they're sister parks, so they have some of the same rides. My personal thought was I enjoyed the coasters more at Kings Island, but I enjoyed the theming and the landscaping and design of things at King's Dominion more.
Yeah.
Like King's Dominion was
I think
really beautiful.
My number one coaster is in King's Dominion.
Yeah, it's very close for me. I barely rank Orion over Twisted Timbers, but to me they're right next to each other in my rankings.
I love
really.
Twisted Timbers.
They're so good. So
I was like, yeah, I can't get on Orion like one more time, but Twisted Timbers, I'm like, let's go again.
Yeah, but because I have Orion just above Twisted Timbers, and then I think I have Banshee just above Intimidator 305. So to me, and then the biggest thing for King's Dominion is after I-305. They kind of have a bit of a drop off. Like Dominator's pretty good, but then after that, it's kind of like Flight of Fear is fine, and then the rest of their stuff. So, but Kings Island, even after Banshee, you've still got Diamondback, and you've still got Spistic Timbers and the Beast. So the quality of and just the sheer amount of lineup that Kings Island has was, I think, what I enjoyed more about their coasters. But specifically theming wise, like King's Dominion was just really beautiful.
It was beautiful.
And Kings Island, it wasn't not beautiful, but I think the number one thing is it just wasn't a lot of trees. Mm-mm. And it was really hot that weekend that we were there. So we were at Kings Island for 4 days, on and off. We went half of Wednesday. And then we were going to be there Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday morning before we drove 4 hours to where we were staying that night. It ended up being a little more complicated because Haley was not feeling good one day.
It was awful.
So we went to a doctor one of the days and then came back to the park. We were there all day Friday, though.
And I had Parker with me too.
Yes, and we had our son with us, so that made it complicated. It was a good thing we went for 4 days, because if we hadn't, we probably would not have gotten on it and everything. Yeah. Even as it was, we did not get to ride Backlot Stunt Coaster. I probably would have pushed harder to ride it if I hadn't just been on the same ride at King's Dominion. Yeah. But I wasn't crazy about it at King's Dominion, so I was like, you know what? I'll get the Backlot Stunt Coaster credit another time.
Right.
So.
Right. No, I think it's hard for me to judge Kings Island on the same level that you had because of how sick I got. Like, I was so sick. Like, I passed out. Like, I had left the park to go back to the hotel with my son for a nap, and then I got so sick at the hotel that I, passed out. Mm-hmm. And so we had to, go to urgent care for me. And so, the rest of the trip I was just not feeling good. And then,
and ultimately we found out it's because we both had COVID and we didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
So
I was so sick.
Because when she was feeling it, we were kind of like, and then she started feeling better, so we were like, oh, okay, I guess, it was just a freak thing. But then Saturday, I started feeling something, and we were like, that's not good. So we took tests on Saturday, and we were like, oh, both tested positive. So that was great. But,
yeah.
So we had to deal with that when we got back home. But
it was lovely. But anyways,
so atmosphere and theming.
I will agree. There was much less trees. I will and I remember saying this, that there was not a lot of nice sitting areas to sit and relax.
Kings Dominion had
a lot of wonderful seating, and so did Cedar Point. I know that
I noticed that too when we went to Cedar Point.
Yeah, there was just a lot of places that you could sit.
Really nice rocking chairs and in the shade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And Kings Island, I just felt didn't have that. I really
on top of it being hot while we were there.
And I really liked at Kings Dominion that there was even that there was built-in places, so that tunnel of mossy leaves that you
And like the
went
vines
through.
overhead that basically provided you a shade all day.
And then like at Cedar Point, there was a couple of like bridges that like had seating in the bridges like that were shaded. And then like Kingston Island, I didn't feel that. Like I didn't feel like there was a place that you could just go and sit and relax. Like it was just very
really the only
open
places you could do that were like
restaurants.
Seating, like dining areas.
And
that's
even
what I was
that,
gonna
I felt
say,
like they were so crowded that like it was hard to do much there. So
So
anyway, so that was like my biggest one of my bigger complaints was just like I just wasn't a fan of the layout, the theming. I thought was 100% better at King's Dominion.
the thing that King's Island struggles with as far as theming is concerned, and I know we talked about this last time we recorded this, is that some of the theming isn't very cohesive with the other rides that are around it.
Right.
So I think specifically the number one, so because I have a map of the park pulled up here, and so like you have Area 72, which you have 2 space-themed rides there. So it's like, okay, fine, but it's only 2 rides. 2 roller coasters, yes, but it's still only 2 rides. And then you have Coney Mall, which
is right next to Area 72, so I just felt like there wasn't a well-cohesive transition.
Yeah, like
either.
you like walk under the racer and then you're in Area 72. So they don't have like a super great entrance for Area 72 to kind of like welcome you into the area. Coney Mall, I mean it's like an old fairground, right?
Right.
So
and
that's
I will say
that's
that
fine.
One was kind of
that's part of,
I think that was their best themed place, which I think it's super easy to theme something like that. So I'm like, well, okay, whatever.
Yep. So, and then Action Zone over here.
I didn't get that.
It's very odd because like Action Zone to me says like thrill rides,
right.
but like not necessarily a specific theme. So like in Vertigo and Delirium and the Extreme Skyflyer and the Drop Tower, like that all makes sense to me to be in a spot called Action Zone. But then you have Banshee, which is like
a Halloween
themed. It's like a
theme.
creepy gothic theme. And then you have the Bat, which also creepy gothic theme. Not as much as Banshee, but you get the idea. So I know you and I had talked about, why don't they just take that whole section of the park
do more like a gothic.
and make it like a little Halloween spot of the park? Like, I think that would be super cool.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what you would, retheme in Vertigo and Delirium to, but
we kind of talked about it I think during the last one, but just for lack of time, I think I agree that the whole gothic thing, like, and dark, like the dark kind of creepy rides, like, I don't feel like amusement parks have that. Like, so I think that would be such a neat aspect to add to this park, is like that whole creepy kind of vibe thing.
I love Banshee's queue and like the when you're walking through the queue, that's like it's lanterns and there's little gravestones around, just like like a haunted mansion.
It was really cool. Like I really liked that queue. I think that was the
and then
best
like as you go down the drop, like there's a banshee that screams out every time. Like it's really cool, really well done.
Very well themed roller coaster, but it's like the only thing that's themed in the park, in my opinion. So.
Well, Mystic Timbers is also very well themed, I will say.
Yeah, I guess.
And to be fair for you, Orion actually has done pretty well too, but because of our parent swap, you didn't get to go through Orion's queue.
No.
Which Orion's queue's done pretty well. So I will give credit where credit's due. And Flight of Fear, because it's indoors, they did all kinds of theming for that. Well, in the queue, the actual ride doesn't have basically anything. Right. It's just lights. But I also learned this. I don't know if I'm just dumb, but I learned that they actually don't. So when you go into the Flight of Fear queue, both at King's Island and King's Dominion, there's like that giant spaceship in there. That's only half of a spaceship. It's a mirror on the other side.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's genius.
I had no idea. But because it's in the dark, like it just... I didn't even notice it.
Yeah, an illusion. That's
Yeah.
really a neat idea.
It's pretty cool. So basically, when you walk in the ship, you walk like through the mirror, and then you're at the station on the other side. So that's how they're able to.
That's genius.
It's pretty smart. So I didn't even notice that when I was there. So kudos to them. So the theming is decent on specific rides as far as whole areas of theming. Because like Mystic Timbers, I loved the theme of Mystic Timbers with like the shed that you go through at the end, and like the at the front of the line, there's literally a speaker that's saying like, "Go back, please do not enter." Like I don't remember exactly what it says, but like just it's very ominous themed. And
warning.
that's what it's like. Warning. Like it's pretty cool. So and like even Mystic Timbers, even I don't know if this is on purpose. But as you're going up the lift hill, like at the end, there's like a warning thing, and like the train slows down as it's like saying warning, warning, and then it speeds up and goes over the lift hill.
Huh.
Almost kind of like you're hesitating and like, no, let's just do this, and like you run over the lift hill. So it's very cool. I like the way they themed Mystic Timbers.
I'm just glad I didn't go and have this spider and I would have been like, I'm never riding this thing again. It's 3. There's a snake, there's spiders.
I thought there were more than that.
No, I think there was only 3.
And it says Mystic Timbers. Let's see. It does say.
I heard it was 3.
It's 3. I thought I heard someone say, because I thought it was 3 too, but I thought I heard someone in line say that there were more endings. Let's see. Oh no, it is. Yep, 3 endings. So I saw. Oh, there's not even a spider one.
I swore there was. Well, maybe
not according to this.
Tree.
There's bats, snake, which I saw those 2. Oh, the tree has a swarm of insects, so maybe there's some spiders in there.
I still would have been like, heck no, I'm out.
Interesting.
Interesting that I would have been out, or that there's only 3.
Just that there's only 3. I thought there's.
You know my fears.
Oh, I know you'd be out.
Like, I'm never riding this stupid thing again.
So the theming is decent for specific rides, but I just think they need more cohesive theming for themed areas. You don't even like Bug's Life?
I can't do the spider scene during
at the end, you're just like...
I'm out. Get over this. It's so stupid. I feel like people with arachnophobia. I just can't get on that.
That's funny.
Gross.
What was I going to say? I was going to say, because King's Dominion just opened at Jungle Expedition, that themed area this year. And that was really well done. And, like, all the rides are telling a cohesive story with one another.
Very cool and well done.
So, more of that at Kings Island would go a long way for me.
Agree.
So
and
they don't even have to build new attractions, because, like, the only new attraction in Jungle Expedition is Toonbeely. They just rethemed Reptilian, and their Scrambler ride they renamed to Arachnidia, and like just gave them both jungle themes, and like it works. So it's cheaper than buying a new ride, that's for sure.
That's true.
So okay, anything else atmosphere and theming wise?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I think that was...
Let's see. So let's talk about the food. So I know your number one thing with food at Kings Island wasn't so, because we talked about this in our last trip report that Haley has food allergies.
Yeah.
And so it's important to us when we go to a park that they can accommodate that. And King's Dominion was phenomenal about it.
And so was Cedar
Point. And Cedar Point was equally, if not better, than King's Dominion, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of expected the same at Kings Island, and I'll just kind of let you talk about what you...
I think I was just really disappointed because I had an expectation going in there, like, oh, they're gonna have the binders or a piece of paper that say like the allergies that are in the food, and they didn't. Like I like was hoping that I could go and like, be able to have all these things, and I couldn't. so like there was a few places that we went to that were like, okay, this is okay, but like I think for the majority of things, like it was just kind of frustrating because I only was able to have like maybe like fries or...
Yeah, so I remember specifically on Friday when we were there. So Haley's cousin and her husband came and joined us on Friday and Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And there's over by Banshee, over in the Action Zone, there's a place called Chicken Shack, which sounded pretty good. Like had some wings and stuff. And they had like, I think they were they baked wings that they had?
Yeah.
But that it said on their allergy thing, on the app, it said that it was allergy friendly for Haley. And so we're like, well, cool. Like, we'll go to this place. And when she went in there, they basically turned her away and said, like, I'm sorry, like, it's not true. Like, it does have allergens in it. So then I think you went and did you go to this Fest House place afterwards? And you got this, you got their vegan burger or whatever they had.
Was, and even like still like, I think my biggest bone to pick like with any like burger thing is like they're like, oh well, it's a gluten-free bun, but then it's not vegan, like, and vice versa. Like, it's like, oh, well, it's a vegan burger, but it's not a gluten-free bun. And so, like, that's, like, my biggest
finding
pick.
something
so
that fits all three of your allergies can be tough sometimes.
Yeah, so it's frustrating, because it's like, you go to these places, and you're like, oh, well, this is great. Like,
we're gluten-free, and we're vegan, but we're not gluten-free vegan.
Yeah. So, like, they would just give me, like, a piece of burger, like, on a lettuce. They're like, here you go.
Just a lettuce patty.
Yeah. Well, even that one, there was a nicer, like, sit-down place even that we went to that
had
a menu.
Well, so that's what I was going to say next, is the next day we went to, let me find it.
Oh, what was it called?
It's right over by Mystic Timbers. This one, Miami River Brew House.
Because it was like, they had a ton of like great ratings. They were like, this is the best restaurant in the park.
Well, and it said that it had those wings again on there, but it said that you could have them. And so we went in there and you talked to the chef, if I remember.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, you didn't talk to the chef. You talked to someone.
Manager.
You talked to a manager. Or you talked to two people. You talked to one person. They said, "Yeah, you can
waiter,
have it."
And then I talked to the manager.
And we went and sat down and waited for our order. And then it was either the chef or a manager that came out and said, "Like, I'm so sorry, you can't have the wings. Like, they will have an allergen in them." So it was like 2 days in a row where you ordered something, and then like they had to come back and say, like, "Sorry, the app is wrong. You can't have that." So then you were like, "What can they do for you?" And his only alternative was to make you the burger patty with lettuce. And so you basically had the same thing 2 days in a row.
Yeah.
When we went to this really nice sit-down restaurant. It was disappointing.
Yeah, it was even to the point that I went to Chipotle outside of the park the one day. I
That
was
is
like,
true.
this is better.
That is true. We did do that. Yeah, it was tough because, like, I enjoyed my food at Miami River Brew House, and I also got...
Well, my cousin and her husband did too, I felt like. But
Miami River was pretty good. I know that they were not crazy impressed with Chicken Shack. Like, I think they actually went and got something
different because they were
kind of disappointed with it. But we went to Coney Barbecue the first day we were there. That was pretty good. That was other than the brew house, that was probably my favorite thing we had there. They had like a rotisserie chicken. Yeah, I liked. Oh, that's right. I remember now because I got the burnt ends and they were pretty good. But then you let me try the rotisserie chicken you got, and that was really good. Yeah. It was very good. So, I imagine that's probably your favorite thing you had while we were there.
Probably,
yeah. So.
Except Dippin' Dots, but you can get
those. That's your amusement park staple.
Dippin' Dots, like, it's funny because you go and you're like, oh, well, that's dairy. Well, the rainbow one is not. Like, it has, I think it's just like a sherbet, so it's dairy-free. But anyways, yeah, that was still pretty good. I think the only other thing I was super disappointed with is like the blue ice cream was such a, classic thing to get, and I wish they had a dairy-free version of it. I
actually, the whole time we were there, I never got my blue ice cream, and I was bummed about that. I never got my blue ice cream. I was gonna get it Saturday morning, but that's when I started feeling horrible because of COVID. That's right. So we ended up leaving early, and I was just like, forget it. So.
Yeah.
The only other place we went to this Potato Works place.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that place.
So
let me just set your mouth on fire. Here you go.
Okay, so this was the second day we were at the park. It was just me, Haley, and our little boy Parker. And we had just gotten off Mystic Timbers, and so we were looking for someplace to just get a snack because Haley was hungry. And so we didn't want to go to Miami River because that's like a sit-down place. So the next closest place was this Potato Works, which is just like loaded fries. You know, they have them in every amusement park.
Yeah.
So they had like a buffalo, it was like buffalo ranch fries, but you got the ranch on the side because you couldn't have it, but you could have everything else. And that buffalo sauce.
Oh my gosh, it was the hottest buffalo sauce I've ever had in my entire life. And it was like, like the whole boy.
Oh, that was the worst part.
Try it so bad, and he's 2.
And you don't
So,
understand that it's like gonna melt his face off.
And so he wanted to try it so bad. We were like, you know what? We gave up, and we let him try a bite, and he started sobbing because he was just
so bad. And I had to take him for a walk while you ate, and then you took him for a walk while I ate. It
was awful. Yeah.
It was horrible.
Unless you're a huge spicy person, I do not recommend the Potato Works.
Well,
place.
and if it had the ranch in it, maybe it wouldn't be that bad. But since you couldn't have the ranch,
so spicy.
Yeah. Even with the ranch, because I had it with the ranch. Even with the ranch, I was like, "Whoa, that is kicking me in the teeth." That was quite a lot. So
yeah.
I think that's everything we did. I also got Skyline Chili the day that you weren't there. Because that's a Cincinnati staple.
Right. I remember that.
So I made sure to get some Skyline Chili, which was pretty good. So, and I think that's everything we got over there. I know we went to the Jukebox Diner, but that was just to get Parker some chicken strips that he didn't eat. So,
welcome to being a parent of a toddler. Yep. Yeah.
So,
That's our.
I think that is.
Food.
That is everything food for Kings Island. So I think just to wrap that up, if you have allergies, Kings Island can accommodate you, but Kings Dominion and Cedar Point, they did awesome.
Honestly, I would even just recommend packing at Kings Island. I don't think it was worth it. And I'm serious.
And maybe, to be fair, we didn't get to go to all the restaurants, so maybe the other ones were better. Maybe we just lucked out or had a bad. I don't know.
I just feel like you're gonna be better off either packing or going to Chipotle outside of the park.
They do have a Chick-fil-A there, so maybe you can.
But they changed the recipe at Chick-fil-A.
That is true.
So
that's a whole nother story, but
we're gonna get into it after the episode's over.
Oh gosh,
that's a sore issue.
That is a sore issue. So, all right. So, let's talk about non-coaster rides we went on. Let's see. Rides and experiences.
I feel like the only one I remember was the shooting ride.
So, we didn't do a ton. We did Boo Blasters. And, so, Boo Blasters at King's Dominion was pretty good. I enjoyed it. It was fun. The thing about Kings Island that's interesting is the queue building is really cool. You actually go inside and the queue is inside this big building.
Yeah.
And it's an Omnimover ride as opposed to individual vehicles so you get higher capacity that way. But when you're shooting the guns, there's no laser that comes out of your gun, you remember?
Yeah.
So you can't even tell where you're shooting.
Yeah, that was really frustrating.
And I'll tell you this, Carowinds, you didn't get to go to Carowinds with me, but they also have a Boo Blasters there. Same problem at Carowinds.
That's so annoying.
It's so obnoxious.
If you're gonna have a shooting ride, you need to aim.
You need to know where you're shooting.
You don't know where you're shooting. You don't know if you actually got the target or not. You just kind of shot and we're like, oh, I hope I got that. So I think the other thing, beef I had with Boo Blasters was how dark the queue was.
It is really dark in there. I tripped over the stairs the first time.
Right. My recommendation is seriously bring your phone with the flashlight on it and turn it on because Although
not on the ride, just in the queue.
But like the queue was really cool, but again, like it's a huge tripping hazard. Yeah. So I would almost like recommend they turn up the light because it's serious.
Just a little bit. It doesn't
or
take
even
much,
like have like lighting along the path.
That would probably be the best answer, actually. Yeah. Just so you can at least see where you're walking.
It was very, very dark, and I was super nervous for my cousin who was pregnant. She'll be having her baby here soon, but like I was so worried she was gonna trip and like fall and like hurt herself or whatever. So yeah, that was kind of scary for me. So the Eiffel Tower was closed.
That was a bummer that we went. The one bummer, like the biggest bummer of that whole trip, I think, is that we went to King's Dominion and King's Island and didn't get to do either of the Eiffel Towers. Yeah, it was.
That was kind of lame.
Yeah, I don't remember why King's Dominions was closed. I think they're refurbishing it, if I remember correctly. But then King's Island was open the first day we were there, but we were like, we'll hit it up another day. Ended up being closed the next 3 days.
Yep.
Never got to ride it. So frustrating.
Yeah.
So that was a bummer, not getting to like get up there and get some great pictures of the park. Just maybe next time.
Yeah.
So, I did Congo Falls.
Because you did that with James, right?
Yeah, it's just it's typical shoot the shoots ride is no big deal. So,
we don't like drop towers, so we didn't.
Yeah,
or
we
like
do
the spinning, like
they're fine, but
like,
we didn't.
Did we do the automobile ride?
We did that at King's Dominion, not at King's Island. So, I know
the one
we did.
thing I will say too, like there is not a lot to ride being pregnant. Like my cousin had very very little to ride.
Yeah,
and I think that was frustrating for her.
Well, because like some of the rides, we just assumed that they would be fine. Like, what are they called? It's in here somewhere. The Woodstock Whirlybirds. It's just like a slow little helicopter on a track. But it said, like, not for pregnant people. And we were like, so I don't know. There's, like, some stuff that we just assumed would be completely fine for her. But then and to be fair, she probably could have, like, gotten on it. And they probably wouldn't have stopped her. They probably just do that for, to keep themselves out of, for liability reasons. But, yeah. There was definitely a couple of those. Because I think the Kings Mills Antique Autos, we had the same problem with that one, too. So
yeah.
We did a couple of the kids' rides because we were there with our son.
Oh my gosh, I still remember having to ride so many of those Planet Snoopy rides over and over and over again.
We did Sally's Seaplanes several times.
Yep, and then the one...
Didn't he let you ride it, like, multiple times in a row, like, without having to get off? Because there's just no one in line?
There was no one in line.
There's not even a queue for that ride.
No,
there's literally, like, you just walk up to the gate and just... Apparently, that's how unpopular that ride is. They don't even have a queue.
But our son loved it. Our little 2-year-old just loved that little ride. And
he
then
also,
the other one was
this one, Snoopy Space Buggies. He really liked that one, too. Silver Dollar City has one just like that one that he really likes.
Yeah.
So, but he gets some serious airtime on that, actually. I was kind of like, whoa.
Yeah.
It was surprising me a little bit. So
I don't think we took him on that little train ride, though, did we?
This one, Snoopy's Junction? No, I don't know why.
I think he would have liked that one, too.
So, he wasn't tall enough for a Great Pumpkin Coaster.
Which was so sad. He was barely
we were hoping
short,
he would, but he wasn't quite there, so. And then we did do Woodstock Whirlybirds with him.
Right.
Before.
And again, like, it was such a... I think it's so funny that the thrill level says 2. Like, I'm not even kidding you. It was like the most gentle ride ever.
It was so gentle. Yeah. It was fun, though. It was fun to get, like, an overview, like, as it goes around the whole Planet Snoopy, Camp Snoopy section. So. And then we did do both carousels with him as well. So.
Yeah.
So that was fun. So. Yeah, they have really nice carousel there. Like, they're antique. Like, they're really nice. The one for adults and stuff, like, it's really nice that they've done a good job with the upkeep on it.
Yeah, we didn't ride any of the carousels, though, at Cedar Point.
We didn't ride any of the 3 carousels that they have there.
We're so lame.
If you listen to our Gemini episode, we talk about the fact that they have 3 carousels at Cedar Point.
that was when Gemini didn't open on time. That was their sticking point. It's like, well, come check out the 3 carousels. All right.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that's non-coaster rides.
Yeah, I think that's it. So let's do all the coaster rides.
Coaster.
So I have the coaster bot rankings here. So I figure we'll just go from the bottom to the top. And then we can just kind of share our experience with them. And then at the very end, I'll give my full ranking and you can give your top 3.
Yeah, it's just been so long that I don't have my ranking.
You're fine. So, and then I think maybe we can just, maybe if we have any other thoughts or tips at the end, we can give that and then we'll close there.
Okay.
That work?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Flying Ace Aerial Chase. I mean,
I don't even think
you
I went
didn't.
that.
No, you didn't go on this one. It's just Vekoma hang and bang. Like it's nothing special. This was the first one I've been on. Surprisingly rough for a small kidding coaster. That's also steel.
I remember you saying that.
I was just like, wow. I'm glad. Yeah. They have another one at Carowinds that your brother and I did, and both of us were kind of surprised about that one too. Just like surprisingly rough for how small they are. So that's all I'll say about that one. Woodstock Express. I expressed my surprise of how much I enjoyed Woodstock Express at King's Dominion. The one at Kings Island didn't impress me as much. I don't know why. They're basically the same, so I don't know if it was just like I got one on a good day and one on a bad day, or maybe we were on a heavier train the one time. I don't know why I enjoyed it so much, but Kings Island one was fine. It was, wooden coaster for kids. So,
Yeah.
You didn't get to do that one either because that was the day you were sick. I know you did Adventure Express though, so here to jog your memory, I'll pull these up so that you
I
can...
remember riding that one. It was the wooden coaster, the first
Well,
one that I
it's
rode.
not wood, but yes, it's the mine train coaster that they have there. Yep.
It was fun. I mean, it wasn't anything like, I don't know. It was just wooden coaster. It was fun.
Out of the mine train coasters I've been on so far, I think it's my second favorite. Behind Thunderation. Thunderation is my favorite one. So the only gripe I have, because the Adventure Express, I enjoyed that it had a little bit of theming, which is nice because most of them have minimal theming.
Oh yeah, it was right. They had the weird.
That's what I was gonna say. The only gripe I have about it is the ending is so anticlimactic.
Yeah, that was so weird. Like I got off of it and I remember being like, "What the flip was that?" Like that was
so
it.
If you're not familiar with Adventure Express, when you leave the station, you go immediately into like a winding section that kind of goes down the hillside. There's like no chain lift. You just go right into the ride. And then at the very, then you go through these bends and twists and turns, a few tunnels, and then you get to this indoor chain lift that goes up, and there's like tikis on both sides that are banging drums.
And you're like, oh, this is so cool.
And there's like this
massive
big tiki man at the top that says something like, "You will never escape," or I don't know, some generic.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be a crazy
and then
drop,
you
and then
come
it's
out
like,
of the tunnel and you're at the final brakes, and you just
was
go
like
right into the station.
Weirdest to ending of
It's
a roller coaster.
So anticlimactic.
Yeah, it was so strange for me. I was like, this is weird. But it was fun.
But the actual ride part is pretty fun. It was pretty good. So
yeah.
So that's Adventure Express. Next, in Vertigo, you did not do this one. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. Just because going backwards on coasters tends to make me fairly nauseous. When we talk about Hershey Park, you'll see that that's what happened to me at Hershey Park. But in Vertigo, I actually enjoyed it a lot. That was the first coaster I did when we got there. Is we just went straight to Vertigo, and it was raining a little bit, so it wasn't raining so bad that it was painful though. It was fine, but yeah, it was fun. So definitely some weird forces to be, because like when you're on a sit down coaster, it feels like you're getting pushed into your seat on like a loop, but when you do a loop on an inverted coaster, it feels like you're being flung like away, like it's like flicking you out of your seat. It's a little bit of a different feeling. But it's weird to feel that going backwards. It's just a bizarre feeling I've never had on a coaster, to go backwards on an inverted coaster. So, but it was good. I enjoyed it. So, my only gripe is that the lines just take so long on those boomerang coasters, because they can only run one train at a time, obviously. So, but it was decent. Good ride.
Okay.
So. Next is the Racer, which we did an episode about the Racer for Airtime Travelers. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out, I believe it's episode 8.
Yeah. So I'm a bit bitter about this one, because I was like,
you can't let the queue interrupt the ride. You can't let it.
The line was like ridiculously long. And not only that, they were only doing one train for the longest time. And then there was people, like some, again, teenagers that like cut in front of me, and like no one said anything about it. Anyway, so by the time I got to the front, like, I was like, okay, well here's, the ride. I'm super excited to get on it. And it was like, it was really rough. I just wasn't a fan as much as I said thought it was going to be. Like, I thought I was really going to like it, and I was kind of let down. So,
yeah. Do you remember if you liked it more or less than Racer 75 at King's Dominion?
I don't remember.
Don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I liked the Racer at Kings Island much more. Part of that's because Racer 75 wasn't actually racing when we went. But I think the Racer, they did some recent retracking work, so while it was rough, I don't think it was as rough as the one at King's Dominion was. So I enjoyed it. And then King's Dominion, I don't feel like I got any airtime on that one, but Kings Island, the Racer, I felt like I got a little bit. So I will also say, with the fresh repaint that they gave it for 2022,
yeah, the repaint was actually nice.
Looks really good.
It was really pretty.
Looked really great. So yeah, I wish they would put one of the trains backwards again, so you could have ride forwards on one side and backwards on the other. I don't think they'll ever do it again though. So.
Oh well.
So, but very solid ride, very good wind coaster. Next is Backlot Stunt Coaster. We did not get to ride that one. Haley I was in line for it when Haley called for me to cut, that she had passed out, so I left the line, went to the front of the park, grabbed an Uber to go rescue her.
Basically, I was so sad.
And we just never got back to that one. I don't know. If you've listened to our other trip report, you know that Backlot Stunt Coaster didn't really impress me that much at King's Dominion. Kings Islands is probably a little better, but I'll get to try it someday. So, next is the Bat. I think this one was probably one of our biggest surprises from Kings Island.
Yeah.
So
I think this was even in my top 4. I really liked this coaster.
It was really good. And this is the first suspended coaster we both had done. And we actually got to try this one together, which was cool, because James and Allie watched our little boy so that we could ride it together.
It was a short line.
Because we had to do parent swap most of the time that we were there. Yeah. But that time I think it was the only ride we got to ride together. Mm-hmm. Well, the only coaster we got to ride together. And it was a lot of fun. I was surprised with how intense it was.
Yes.
It's not like Storm Runner or Intimidator 305,
right,
but it was, for the size it is, it had some pretty good G-forces.
The swinging motion, I just was so shocked by it that I think that's why it got in my top 4.
Yeah, it's to me, it's kind of like Reptilian at King's Dominion. It's not super, it's not going to knock your socks off. It's not going to be, take your breath away. But it's just a lot of fun. And that's kind of the way I viewed it. It's just a lot of fun.
No, that's a nice, good way of putting it.
So, it's a coaster I could marathon it all day. It's a really fun ride. So. Next is Flight of Fear.
You rode that one.
You did not get to ride Kings Island's version. You did get to do Kings Dominion's. The only I put Kings Dominion's ahead, and the reason is, and I don't know if this is a typical experience, but I had one ride on each, and this was the experience I had. Kings Dominion, there's both rides. There's a mid-course brake run,
before you go into the second half of the twister portion of the ride. And on King's Dominion, when we went through the brake run, it slowed us down a bit, but then we just blew through it and kept going. At King's Island, we went through that brake run and came to a stop for like a second or two, and then it let us go. And that just, to me, that just kills the momentum of the ride. It's just,
Right.
And then you're not going as fast for the rest of the ride, so it's kind of, the pacing was just not as good because of that.
Yeah, and we talked about it, and we're like, well, maybe it was a handicapped person trying to get on and off the ride.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I say I don't know if that's like an everyday thing or if it was just because there was another train in the block zone ahead of us, and so we had to stop for safety reasons, which I get it. Sometimes that happens. That's why the block zones are there. So, clearly I'll ride it again, and maybe I'll have a different opinion if that's not a normal occurrence, but based on my one ride on each of them, that's all I've got to go off of, so is what it is.
Okay, what's next?
Next is Banshee. So now we're getting into like these are the coasters that rank in the top 100 in the country. These are kind of the bread and butter of Kings Island fans. So
I really liked Banshee.
Banshee was,
which was shocking for me because it is a head restraint is not one that I usually go for. But
well, it's a vest restraint on Banshee.
that's
remember?
Right.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's why you liked it so much, because most inverted coasters do have those over the shoulder restraints that you hate, but Banshee is the one exception to that has the vest restraint.
I will say, looking back at it now, I think I would have really appreciated going on it on more an overcast day, or on a when it got darker out, because the sun was in my eyes 75% of the
Really?
ride. That it was giving me a headache more, I think.
That's interesting. I probably didn't have to deal with that. So the only time we rode Banshee was in the morning because we had
Early entry.
ERT. That's the early ride time.
Early ride time.
So we had ERT on Banshee the whole time we were there. And so we only rode it in the morning. And I'm guessing I didn't have to deal with that because I never rode it in the front row like you did. So there's people in front of me to
kind of
block the sun.
Yeah, it was really,
I
really
do
bright.
see how that would be an awesome night ride though, because it starts over in the park, but then it goes out in kind of into the valley that's kind of next to the coaster. So I think that would be a really cool one at night.
Yeah, I agree. So especially because of the whole spooky thing, I don't know.
Yeah,
I think it would be cool.
It would be very cool. So
anyways, I did love it. I thought it was great.
That was so good. That was the Bat and Banshee were probably my number one surprises from the trip in a good way. And just so the Banshee actually ranks in my top 10 after all these trips we've been on this summer. Banshee's still in my top 10 coasters. I really loved it. And I'm an atypical coaster enthusiast that actually prefers the vest restraints over the shoulder restraints. Most enthusiasts are like, well, you don't get any airtime because the vest, is holding you in place. And I'm like, I could care less about airtime. I care, if I'm not banging my head against the restraint, then I'm going to enjoy it more, not having a headache rather than losing out on quote unquote airtime. But especially with Banshee, there's not really airtime anyway. It's more about inversions than hills and, airtime moments. So, I think the other thing I really liked about Banshee is just how unique the layout is. Because it, after that first drop, you go into a dive loop, which is pretty unique. Most of them have an Immelman, which means you go up the loop and then, do a barrel roll at the top. Where Banshee, you go up, do a barrel roll, and then come down, on the bottom side. So it's basically the opposite, which is pretty unique. And then the loop around the lift hill is really cool. And then at the very end there's that slow, do you remember this? There's a barrel roll, but it's super slow so that you feel all the hang time of that and getting pushed into the shoulder restraint. It's just a very unique ride with a lot of unique elements that and I've come to realize that the coasters I like are coasters that do a lot of different things. Those are the ones that tend to be towards the top of my list. Have the
different aspects of things.
Yeah. Which is why I enjoy Banshee more than Diamondback. Because Diamondback is a lot of fun, tons of airtime, But that's kind of the only thing it does is airtime.
Right.
Where Banshee does a lot of different things. And so, anyway.
So is Diamondback next?
No, the next one, I think... What's the next one? The Beast is the next one. I know you weren't overly impressed with the Beast.
I don't know. Yes, it was long. Yes, it had a ton of airtime, but I just didn't find it as smooth as I was hoping it to be. And so, like, I came off the ride, like, pretty sick. And I was like, I probably won't get on that again. So...
It was interesting because... So, the Beast is one that's constantly hyped up in the industry. And so, this was my first time riding this coaster that's been a legend in the industry for almost 50 years.
Right.
And when we went through the first half of the ride, or first 2/3, I guess, before the second lift hill, I was kind of underwhelmed. I was kind of like, I mean, it was fine. I can see how this would be impressive for the 70s when it was built. And so then you go up that second lift hill, and you kind of come around that turn, and then you just take that slow, long, inclined hill all the way down into into the tunnel that goes into that giant, double helix.
Mm-hmm.
And that part of the ride just completely caught me off guard and blew me away. I was just like, that was a really, really cool moment. And that alone is what made me enjoy the ride so much. And like, that part of the ride was easily my favorite part. And kind of made the ride for me. So I didn't like it as much as Banshee or Diamondback or some of these others, but it still is in my top 25. Like, it was a lot of fun. And I did get to do a night ride on the Beast, which was like my number one. Like, I'll just tell this really quick, but when we were only there late enough to do a night ride one time,
right?
And just Friday night, and I go over to the Beast right as dusk is coming, and I get there, and they're they're closing the line for some reason, but he says that like we can get in line if we want to, so I hop in line. And I'm like hearing some people say that like it's just they're having a maintenance issue. There's one guy that's saying they're closing it because of the fireworks. And I'm like, that's weird. I didn't think they were starting the fireworks until next week. So I called Haley and like told her kind of what was going on. I was like, I may be in line for a while, but like this is my number one bucket list ride for tonight, so I'm going to stay here as long as it takes. So I even told her like, if you need to leave and I'll get an Uber back to the hotel at midnight tonight, like I'm just gonna stay here as long as I can. So she went and talked to a security guard and asked about the fireworks, and the security guard's like, there's no fireworks tonight.
Well, it was even funnier because like they were trying to deal with a drunk guy. I mean, this guy was plastered, and so like they're trying to deal with this guy, and this guy's like, oh yeah, the fireworks are this. It was like, you could tell, like, you could smell it. It was awful, but, like, it was just kind of hilarious, because they're like, no, there's no fireworks.
So, she calls me back and tells me that. So, at this point, I'm like, okay, someone's lying. It must just be a maintenance issue they're dealing with. So, people keep getting out of line in front of me, but I just stick it out, and I'm just waiting, and I'm waiting. After probably 30 minutes of waiting, I had moved up pretty significantly in the line because a lot of people had just given up. And after waiting like 30 minutes, they like start loading people onto a train, and like everyone in line just cheers. And like as the way the queue is, like the first train comes right by the queue, and so like the people on the coaster were like yelling at us and cheering at us, and we're like fist bumping back at them, like
because we're such dorks.
Just all these coaster enthusiasts. One thing I forgot to mention, it was coaster stock the weekend that we went there, so it was just filled with enthusiasts, especially for a night ride on the Beast.
Right.
So, yeah, it was pretty much just me and a bunch of enthusiasts in line. So we were all cheering for our night ride on the Beast. So, but the night ride was worth it. It was like you were just out in the woods in the pitch black.
I think I would have liked it. I think I would have liked the night ride.
It was we got to do that night ride on Outlaw Run last year.
That was fun.
It was similar to that, like how pitch black it was.
Yeah.
But obviously it's a longer ride than Outlaw Run is, so I mean it's kind of just whatever your preference is. If you want like a super fast, super intense, or just kind of like a less intense, but like you're going out into the woods and like it's a super long ride. So it was cool. I really enjoyed the Beast, so it was very good. I think it lives up to the hype. Next is actually Orion is the next highest ranked one.
Which I think is funny because it was
both of our favorites. But I really enjoyed Orion. I think Orion gets too much hate just because it's not Fury 325. Because Fury came first, and people rave about Fury and how awesome it is, and I have to agree. It is.
I was going to say, you're the one that
it's
raves
my
about it.
favorite coaster I've been on. It is awesome. But just because of how awesome Fury is, and Orion isn't as long, like it's a shorter ride than Fury is, I think people hate on Orion just because it's not as good as Fury.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is fair. Like, just because it's not as good as something doesn't mean you need to knock on it. It's just like, okay, it's not as good as Fury, but it's still awesome. You know, it's still a 300-foot drop with like some really cool elements.
I kind of got a night ride on that one. It was like dusk.
Yeah, mine was I was kind of like right at sunset, and by the time you got on it, it was like sun had probably gone down. It was almost a night ride for you, which was pretty cool. So it was a lot of fun. I wish we could have gotten to do it more than once, but it was pretty awesome. So I don't know, the B&M Giga coasters are just so glossy smooth, so you really just get to appreciate the raw speed and intensity of everything, because you're not getting jerked around. It's just like, I don't know, you're just like flying through that layout, and it's just so smooth.
Yeah.
It was pretty awesome. So
yeah, no, I think I liked Orion just because it was like one of the smoothest that we rode, I think, out of Kings Dominion, Kings Island. And I'm just like trying to remember like my experience. I think I really liked it being like a little darker. Like even though it was lit up, I thought it was like kind of a more fun ride to ride at night.
mm-hmm.
Even, you know, with it being my first experience, like I thought it was a really well done ride. I know my cousin Allie wished she could have gotten on it with me, but her being pregnant, I'm like, oh, we'll just have to come back.
We'll have to do another time. So the next one is Diamondback, which
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. You go ahead.
You sound like you had something negative to say.
I mean, I thought it was cool, but I just didn't see the hype in it.
Really? But you love Candemonium so much.
Yeah, I like Candemonium a lot better.
Why?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Smoother, I guess.
I mean, Candemonium is smoother because it's newer. I think Diamondback has more airtime, though. Because the trains are longer. Because they have the staggered seating as opposed to the inline seating.
That was cool. I did like the staggered seating. Yeah.
So
I'm trying to like remember my experience on it. Honestly.
The one thing I'll say about Diamondback is it has a slight rattle. It's not super. I didn't even mean to do that. That's so stupid. It has a slight rattle. Like it's not super. Like it's not as smooth as Orion or Candemonium. It's not like a wooden coaster by any means, but you do notice a little bit of a vibration when you get to the bottom of those hills. So the splashdown is a nice touch.
I did like the splashdown.
It was a lot of fun. So when I was trying to decide, because I have the 3 hypers I've been on, I have them all in a row, and I was trying to decide which order to put them in. Ultimately, I decided I like the staggered seating better, so I put Diamondback and Intimidator ahead of Candemonium. And then I was trying to decide between Diamondback and Intimidator, and ultimately I decided, well, I guess the splashdown on Diamondback is just like the slight edge to give to Diamondback over Intimidator. So,
which I don't get that, but whatever. To each their own. I liked Intimidator and Candemonium much better than Diamondback.
Well, you didn't, not Intimidator 305, Intimidator at Carowinds.
Oh, and I didn't get that one.
Yeah, you get to do that one, so, but I did like Intimidator 305 better than Diamondback.
I was gonna say, you're kind of weird for thinking that.
Nah, I-305 is better than Diamondback for sure, so.
Okay, so then
the very last one is Mystic Timbers. That's their highest rated coaster. So,
and I kind of already expressed my opinion about Mystic Timber.
Mystic Timbers is interesting because I've come to this realization over this summer of riding all these rides that I don't think I appreciate newer wooden coasters as much as the average enthusiast. I think like the older wooden coasters like Racer and Blue Streak and I'm trying to think. Oh, like all the ones at Kennywood, like Jackrabbit.
Yeah.
I really enjoy those. But like Ghost Rider and Lightning Racer and Mystic Timbers, all these kind of newer wooden coasters, I don't rank them as high as most enthusiasts do. I'm not sure why. I don't know why. I think they're a lot of fun. I would ride them over and over again, but I don't know. I just prefer the smooth steel coaster over the kind of rough ride of a wooden coaster. So
I could agree with that. Yeah.
That's something you have to say about Mystic Timbers.
Yeah. Just
The setting is really beautiful. I like the you go over, I don't know what the river or creek is called that's in the park, but you go over that creek twice going out and then coming back, and that's really cool. And then, like I said earlier, the theming on Mystic Timbers is really well done too. So I enjoyed it. I rank the Beast above it, which is probably not a popular opinion, but I do really enjoy Mystic Timbers.
All right, so give me your rankings.
All right, so here's my rankings.
Because I'm curious. I know I will have like my top 4 probably.
Okay, so my bottom 3 are exactly the same as they are here. Yeah, Flying Ace, Aerial Chase, Woodstock Express, Adventure Express. And then I actually have Flight of Fear further down just because of the thing I mentioned with like we came to a complete stop and then we were going. That may change someday when I ride it again. And then I have in Vertigo and then the Racer, so just like it is there. Mystic Timbers is what's next. So I have Mystic Timbers like all the way down in, what's that, 6th? Where according to the Coaster Bot rankings, most people put it at number 1. I then have the Bat and then the Beast, which then makes my top 3 Orion, Banshee, and Diamondback would be my top 3 at the park. So
I would say mine is Orion, Banshee, the Bat, and then Diamondback were my
that's
top,
your top 4.
Mm-hmm.
Orion, so okay, yeah. So yeah, basically you liked the Bat more than Diamondback and the Beast.
Yeah, I think it was just such the surprise factor, like you said. Like, I really liked that. So.
All right. So, that is our ranking of the coasters at Kings Island. And I think, like I mentioned at the top of the show, that, like, to me, the overall coaster lineup at Kings Island is better than Kings Dominion. Like, Twisted Timbers and Intimidator 305 are fantastic.
Yeah.
But after that, Kings Island just has more stuff that Kings Dominion doesn't really have an answer for. I would love to see Kings Island get something from RMC. That's one thing they definitely are missing there.
Yeah, I agree.
Is to have, like, could you imagine if they were able to put like a Steel Vengeance size RMC at Kings Island?
That'd be sweet.
Like at that point, you're like, what has a better lineup, Kings Island or Cedar Point? Like that would, to me, Steel Vengeance is what puts Cedar Point, above Kings Island because both of them have a Giga Coaster, and both of them have a Hyper Coaster.
I would still put Cedar Point over
really
Kings Island. Oh yeah.
I guess Maverick is the other thing that I would love to see Kings Island put a modern launch coaster.
Well, altogether, I really loved Cedar Point for the ambience, the theming, the food,
Oh
like the like, scenery was gorgeous.
Mhm.
Like, the weather was great.
Oh, the
like,
weather was so nice.
and like, there was just shade everywhere. There was places to sit. Like, I don't know. And like the coasters, I loved the coasters there.
Yeah.
I had a hard time like saying which one was my favorite. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Cedar Point definitely trumps Kings Island for me.
The
Even
th-
if they've
yeah.
added stuff. I
The
think
thing
it's
is, like,
still-
because I'm thinking side by side. Like, they don't have anything for Steel Vengeance, but I like Orion more than Millennium Force. They don't have an answer for Maverick either, really. But I like Banshee more than Raptor. I mean, the Beast and Mystic Timbers,
What about,
Cedar Point doesn't have anything.
the one
They
that
just
I
have
liked
one
where
old.
you like hang.
Oh, Valraven. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. So
They
it just.
didn't have something like that, and I loved that one.
Yeah, they don't have anything. They don't have a dive coaster at Kings Island. So there's definitely some holes that Kings Island has. And to be fair, Cedar Point also has a hole. They don't have a modern wooden coaster at Cedar Point. So
They're not much missing.
according to you and I, apparently. But most
not
enthusiasts.
wooden coaster fans, I guess.
I guess not. I mean, not that we don't like them, but I just think we like the steel ones more. I don't know. So. I think just to close it out, do you have any like tips or thoughts for people that would be visiting Kings Island? Anything you would advise to them?
I see, like, just like being a parent, like, just be prepared going in. Like, you know, your Planet Snoopy, like, it is nice, but it's definitely like
They have a pretty decent sized kids section. They have a decent size, like a decent amount of kids rides there. I was
something I
impressed
liked
with that.
about Cedar Point, and it was something that I recognized, is that they had like 2 different kids sections in opposite
Mhm.
ends of the park, whereas like King's Dominion, Kings Island, it was very like, this is where your kid's spot is. This is the only spot that you get to go with your children. Like, there wasn't a lot.
I kind of like having it all in one spot.
See, I don't.
Really?
I disagree. I think, like, you know, because then it's like you're stuck in one spot of the park the entire day. There's no extra, like, you have to walk to get to a restaurant if you want to go to a specific restaurant. Like, there's not really, like, you know, a lot to do, like, except for that one spot, and that's like it, you know. So I disagree. I would say, like, if I, you know, were to bring like Parker in like 3 years and have a baby, like, you know, there's gonna be rides that he can get on that like the, you know, a little 1-year-old or 2-year-old couldn't get on. So it's like,
Right.
you know, then you're stuck trying to like play monkey in the middle with 2 children that want to go on completely different rides. So
You might have that anyway, though.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, I think like that's something that, like, being a parent, be aware of, like, take that into your planning, like, consideration, and like just stay hydrated. I think, you know, at this park, because it's just so hot there, and like the cost of water is so expensive.
The one thing I will say that I was impressed with at Kings Island is like they have water bottle filling stations.
Yes, I
that
do
Kings
agree
Dominion
with that.
and Cedar Point did not have.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very appreciative of that because of how hot it was.
And it was
but like
just,
we didn't have to buy a ton of water because we just brought our water bottle and we topped it
Mhm.
off all day, which
Yeah,
was great.
That
so.
was really nice. So, I'm just trying to think what else. In Planet Snoopy, they do have like a parent station that you can go nurse your baby. You could go
get out of the heat
and
for
like
a little
they
bit
might
if you
have
need
had
to.
that at Cedar Point and Kings Island, like Kings Dominion.
We just didn't have Parker with us to
so I didn't
need
like
it,
realize
so,
it.
yeah.
But like I will say, like that was a big plus, was being able to go in there even just for 30 minutes to have Parker get out of the stroller, like sit there, cool off, and then like, you know, judgment free zone basically. It was kind of nice.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's any other tips I have. Parking, we didn't pay for premier parking, and I didn't
No.
feel like.
I think the only other thing was hotel. Like, I just make sure you read the reviews on your hotel. Like, our hotel was okay, but I felt like I would have. I don't know.
I thought our Kings Island one was better than the Kings Dominion one, though. Because the Kings Dominion one you weren't happy with, but I felt like Kings Island was better.
I wasn't happy with the Kings Island one either, though.
All right then. I thought you were.
Well, It's hard to say because they had a lot of problems with the playpen, even though they said that they had
Was
one.
that at the Kings Island one?
Yeah, we had trouble trying to get them a
all of our
playpen.
trips are kind of blending together for
And
me.
then, like, my cousin and her husband also stayed there, and they had to move their room, like, twice because their room smelled like smoke. We didn't have that problem, but they did. So, like, and they said that there was going to be a hot tub there, and there wasn't.
Oh, that is true. I do remember
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Like,
and the pool was gross too,
it was
wasn't it?
disgusting.
Yeah, it was like green. We're like, we're not.
No, we're not getting in the pool. So
I don't remember where we stayed, so can't help you out there. But
it was like kind of out of the. It was like 20 minutes away.
it was about 10 minutes. About 10 minutes away because the stuff that was like right there in Mason was kind of pricey, so I tried to find something a little further away. But
right. So just read your reviews. Be aware of certain places. So.
I think next time I go to Kings Island, I would try to avoid going the week of coaster stock.
Oh yeah,
I think it was a little busy. Unless I'm going for coaster stock, that would be different. But
that would be cool though.
that would be cool. If you don't know what that is, basically you pay extra for your ticket, but you get like food with it. And then like there's catering and stuff, but you also get like behind the scenes tours of some of the coasters. So there's some cool stuff that you get along with that. So, but yeah, I would not go the same weekend as that because it was kind of crazy. So
yeah. Oh well, that was fun.
Yeah, it was a good trip.
For the most part.
Yeah. We're
trying to like make lemonade out of lemons, but it was rough for me. But
you getting sick, yeah, it was tough. So
yeah,
and like we have our complaints, but ultimately we had a good time. Like we're not saying we're never going to go back to Kings Island. It's more just us sharing our thoughts and just saying here's where we think they can improve. But every park has places that they can improve. So, well, thank you for tuning in to our trip report of Kings Island. I'm not sure when our next trip report will be coming out, but the next trip report will be about our trip to Hershey Park, which will be exciting. We had a good time there. That was only a one-day trip, but we've had, that's the second time we've gotten to go. So be sure to subscribe and follow the podcast so that you're kept up to date whenever we post new episodes. We have a new episode coming out on Monday, episode 14 of Airtime Traveler, so be sure to go and check that out. And be sure to follow us on social media for updates and to keep up to date on the conversations we're having over there. It's just at Airtime Traveler or over on Twitter and Instagram. And I think that's all we have for this time. Any final thoughts on Kings Island?
Chipotle.
Go to Chipotle outside the park if you have food allergies. It's not that far. It's only like 3 minutes from the entrance to the park.
Yeah,
so.
honestly. Like, you can pull out of the parking lots right there.
If you have a pass for free parking, you could literally just go, come right back. It would take you 20 minutes outside the park.
Cheaper. So.
It is cheaper, definitely. So.
Alrighty.
That's your tip. So that's it for this trip report, and we'll see you in the next episode.